Let's talk about the treatment for primary versus secondary and tertiary hypogonadism. We have done a video on the different kinds of hypogonadism before, but let's talk specifically about the treatment today, Gil.
This is the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. And if you want to learn all about the science-based information on this topic, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
Sure. So this is a good question. This is a little more involved than just a clear-cut answer, but I'm going to try to keep it real basic. And I'm going to use more of an umbrella approach here as to what we would primarily do with the masses, but then again, it would be more individualistic depending on the specific goals and needs of that patient. On the bigger picture, we have to understand again, and I know we did the video on this, but I just want to touch a little bit. The primary hypogonadism is essentially a failure downstairs. Your testicles have stopped producing testosterone, primarily your latex cells, right? So if we need to address this issue, which is more common in either people with testicular injury, cancers, diseases that are causing this type of a failure in the endocrine system, or aging, where the biological age of the testicles has essentially outlived their need for procreation, this is typically where you're going to find a more common approach for primary hypogonadism. Put that on hold for a moment and let's look at the secondary/tertiary hypogonadism diagnoses. And the secondary is the anterior pituitary failure to release a gonadotropin signal, specifically the luteinizing hormone, asking the testicles to even go to work in the first place for testosterone production. And then if we step it back a little bit, looking at the hypothalamic effect of releasing the gonadotropin releasing hormones in order to stimulate the luteinizing hormone, those two are essentially brain issues, whereas the primary is more of a testicular issue. So let's kind of separate this into an upstairs approach versus a downstairs approach. The upstairs approach has one job only, and that is to send down a signal. That is the light switch. The light bulb is downstairs, the light switch is upstairs. If the switch ain't coming on, the light bulb ain't coming on. So if we find that secondary hypogonadism or tertiary exists, what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to flip the switch. And the way we do that is by introducing what we call luteinizing hormone mimickers or luteinizing hormone secreting analogs, which in most cases are going to be used mostly for younger guys with the intent on bringing them off of therapy over the course of time. Several weeks to a few months, for the sake of seeing if we can restart their own natural production by letting their pituitary then take over. This is going to introduce a class of medications known as SERMs, or selective estrogen receptor modulators, which are going to activate the blocking mechanism of the estrogen receptor in the brain. And this will encourage the pituitary gland to kick back on in that negative feedback loop and re-signal the testicles with luteinizing hormone production. Once we start to titrate that off and eventually eliminate it, you come back in and you retest. And if all goes well and you manage to keep your LH levels up and you do not suffer from primary hypogonadism and your testicles have managed to produce sufficient levels of testosterone, you are then essentially considered cured for the time being and restarted. And I would advise people who've gone through this protocol for the next couple of years to go and at least once a year have a serum level done, combined with all of their free androgens, binding globulins, et cetera, to make sure that they're still sufficiently producing. The more common effect is the people who are secondary, who are going to be administered a lifelong therapy of testosterone. In that case, if they wish to prevent testicular atrophy and or maintain some level of fertility, we can supplement with an HCG, for example, human chorionic gonadotropin, which does not enable the pituitary secretion of luteinizing hormone. In fact, it is suppressive. However, it mimics the luteinizing hormone effect and therefore produces some level of endogenous testosterone intratesticularly, which will then maintain fertility and prevent testicular atrophy. In conjunction with that, they will need to be supplementing with some level of exogenous testosterone, be it a topical application, injectable, etc. So that is your secondary/tertiary approach. The guys who are a strong primary, and there's different levels of primary, you got the guys who are mild primary, and we know this when the luteinizing hormone is kind of mid-range, but the total testosterone and free testosterone are maybe somewhat lacking, and yet they're showing signs and symptoms of low T. Those guys may benefit from HCG to an extent for some period of time. The guys who are very strong primary hypogonadal are very evident in their initial baseline labs. What we often see there is their luteinizing hormone levels are really spiked up way off the chart. So if your normal morning labs for luteinizing hormone are going to range in, like the 3.5 to 8 range, you'll see guys coming back at like 12 or 15 on their LH levels. This is signaling to us that your brain is crying for help. Your body is begging for more T by constantly secreting a high level of LH, and yet your testicles are non-responsive. And oftentimes you'll find total T levels in the 4s, 500s on these guys simply because of the oversaturation of LH, yet an LH level normally with medical intervention in the teens should secrete over 1,000, right? You take a healthy young male, put him on like a clomiphene citrate or a tamoxifen protocol for a month, his LH is going to be in the 10, 11, 12 range. His total T, right, even though symptoms aren't going to be resolved due to the estrogen blocking, but the total T is still going to come back on the serum over 1,000. So when you see these guys at 11, 12, 13 on the LH and their total T is 400, 500, they're literally just milking whatever is left out of that engine, and it is a failed approach. Usually that'll be coupled with elevated SHBG, partially due to age and partially due to the fact that they've just been low T for so long that their free T is going to be in single digits. I've seen numbers as low as like 2 or 3 nanograms per deciliter, and they're going to be highly symptomatic. Those guys are not going to benefit from an HCG tag-on protocol. So if you piggyback HCG in a strong primary hypogonadal patient, they're really not going to benefit much from it because, again, you're kind of poking the dead horse. Those guys are going to be a testosterone monotherapy patient for life. So that is why it is important to kind of diagnose primary versus secondary, tertiary initially. As I mentioned in another video, you get one shot to figure out where your levels are on the gonadotropin level. And most guys are going to come in either primary or secondary or a combination of both. And that will help us understand if we're going to piggyback any sort of medications or treatments alongside their protocol going forward. And for those that do wish to conceive children in the future at some point, it is going to help us tailor a fertility protocol to help them maintain that option as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Gil. That's very clear. Hey, and now do this next. Click on one of these thumbnails to learn a ton more about TRT and hormone optimization.